Swedish payment firm Klarna is worth now more than $10 billion.
Have a lot of bankers, that's true, but they don't have really talented.
Many of your former co-workers, friends and acquaintances have publicized their recent moves and promotions with various startups on LinkedIn. You are happy for them, but at the same time, envy strikes you. You saw their photos and videos on social media, having a blast, playing beer pongs, futsal, enjoying free flow beers and food, playing video games like they don't have to work at all. The news coverage on startup landscape has been so exciting and has received a lot of attention. Some of these founders were college dropouts or homeless, while others were funded by well-known billionaires such as Jeff Bezos and Mark Cuban. Some of these firms were acquired too, made it to IPO, and you were inspired by their success.
Founder Jeff Bezos has just made his first investment in a Southeast Asian e-commerce startup.
It was incredibly fortunate and a huge fanboy moment for me.
Going from homeless to that in 5 years, I'm very proud of that.
$6 million, the total amount Mark Cuban has invested.
In investment in 2015.
Deal is really all about the top line and accelerating top line. You know, we're an extremely profitable company.
You start to question, what have you been doing all this time working at large corporations? You have been feeling miserable about your situation, not getting along with your manager. You are unhappy with the stagnant progress in your role, and the reality of not getting anywhere gets louder in your head. You are excited about breaking free and being happy again, but the thought of exploring career opportunities, attending interviews, and changing employer again makes you nervous. You begin to wonder if working at startups is genuinely exciting, or would it be a risk for you? You sought counsel from everyone you knew, you perform extensive research, and you discover the ugly truth. The rate of failed startups is very high, from ill-fated fintech ventures to mismanaged medtechs and misguided entrepreneurs. Business owner is likely to make mistakes, and many of these mistakes led to the downfall of startups. What are the reasons then that so many startups do not blossom into a stable, full-grown company? 96% of startups go bust for various reasons. Many of these startups rise the fintech and e-commerce trends, but only a handful of them survive. Many startups like selling the concept of making it big and becoming the next Alibaba, the promise of the riches. While some employees turn millionaires, many others do not. Money and time are finite and need to be allocated judiciously. Many entrepreneurs, though, lack long-term vision as well as realistic execution. Some continue to make poor judgments and decisions by going on a hiring spree, expanding in the wrong markets, draining investors' funds. Most of these founders ignored the advice of the specialists they hired, as well as their own investors. When many startups ran out of funds at an alarming rate, or were unable to raise new fundings, or when the market crashes and they need the funds to keep them afloat, many employees will be the first to go. Never get attached with the idea of we are family, because in the end, this is all business. Now, I am not saying that this might be the reality for everyone and all startups are the same. But many wonder, how long is this party going to last for? To answer that, we need to understand how the startup ecosystem works. Startups are typically invested by venture capitalists, angel investors, etc. Venture capitalists often want the founders to focus on growth at any cost. The hypothesis is if they can grow fast and eliminate the competition, they can be the biggest player in the market and charge consumers whatever they want. However, that doesn't happen overnight. So what these startups are doing to get growth at any cost? They often burn way more money than they are generating. It is not uncommon for startups to spend $10 to generate only $1 of revenue. In other words, they are burning $9 for every dollar of revenue. That means most of these startups are highly unprofitable. And this is not only the story for small startups at Series A or B. This is also the case for well-established startups. Take for example, Grab in Singapore, who is still gross margin negative. This also means they are not recovering the cost of sales, let alone other operating expenses like employee salary. So you might ask yourself, if they are burning all this cash, how do they continue to operate? And that's where all these funding rounds come. When you look at the news, an XYZ company raised yet another round, they are likely to run out of cash or need more money to continue chasing growth. I believe your next question might be, if they are unprofitable, why do they get funded? The answer to that lies in the near zero interest and Federal Reserves in the US printing lots of money since the year 2008. The influx of this available cheap money forced the investors to look for returns elsewhere. To generate that return, one of the things investors look to do is to invest in venture capitalists who in turn invest this cheap money in startups, hoping that out of 100 investments, at least 3 to 4 will end up getting listed and they can make a lot of money. This is all good as long as there is availability of cheap money. But what happens when this cheap money is no longer available? As is the case now, with the Federal Reserves raising interest rate rapidly and the tightening its bond buying, the cheap money in the market is drying up fast. And in the last 6 months, we have already seen the significant ramifications of this change. The startup valuation has dropped, in some cases by up to 85%. Take for example Klarna, the darling of European fintech scenes. Klarna was once valued at $40 billion in its last funding round, which is around a year ago. However, in their recent funding round, its valuation at $40 billion was cut by 85%. For the smaller startup, the picture is even bleaker. They struggle to get their next funding round unless they can show they are profitable. With no cheap money available, the investors are now asking the startups to focus on profitability instead of growth at any cost. Which means, the first and foremost the startups do is to cut costs, and the easiest way to do so is to lay off its employees first. And that is what exactly, my friend, is happening in the last 6 months. So, is it a must to have startup experience in your career? The answer is no. Can it expand your opportunity? Yes, and absolutely. One learns a lot in a few short years than in a big company, as you get to perform multitude of functions and you will have a great learning curve no matter how experienced you are. By the way, the amount of consensus you need to get working in large corporations is mind-boggling, and that is not the case when you work in startups. Note, hiring managers do not care who you work for if you cannot articulate the value you are bringing to the position they are hiring, or if you cannot show to them during the interview process, you will not be considered for the role that you applied for. Also, it does not really matter if the startup you work for is big or small. As long as you can articulate what you did, how you helped that startup grow, what mistakes you made along the way, and how you recover from those mistakes, that is going to be useful during the interview process. Some other pointers for you to ponder. Can you tolerate risk? Do you value certainty over uncertainty? Startup is not for the faint-hearted. It is not for the people who love or need stability, processes, or someone who is risk-averse. By the way, don't join startups for money and options. Join because you believe in their domain, their vision, and the problem they are addressing. Remember, why do you want to leave your current employer in the first place? I hope you find this video useful. Do share it with your friends, family members, or colleagues. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Dimayani Ma'ad, and I'll see you again. Bye!